Hi. So, if you're listening to this, then I guess I don't know what that means, or if it's good, bad. Sorry, I don't know really. Sorry, I don't really know why I'm doing this. I guess just, if anyone finds this, I want them to know what happened.
A person dead for 20 years is reported seen at a grocery store. An inhabited town is bustling from residents one day and the next disappears from the map and is written out of history. A photograph displays objects or people that were not present at the time the image was captured. Throughout history, we have seen and heard all manner of strange events that can't quite be explained. Some try to explain them by attributing them to things we cannot see. Ghosts, aliens, or even that most ambiguous invisible concept of the unexplained. But what if these events are caused by things we can see? What if, in fact, there is an explanation and somebody knows the answer? At a time not yet known, a series of anomalous events occurred. These events were unknown to the public until 2024, when a series of tapes surfaced claiming to contain auditory evidence of the events. Submitted to a startup podcast production company, Secret Handshake Productions, by an anonymous source, these tapes were recreated and slated for a dramatized release in October of 2024, under the title Tales of Dread and Darkness. After the tapes were redacted by an entity not originally known, Secret Handshake Productions chose to move forward with releasing their dramatized recreations, exposing the redacting agency to be an organization known as the ADPA. The contents of these tapes led to more questions than answers, specifically regarding the ADPA itself. After being silenced under duress, Secret Handshake Productions is ready to come forward and share the real story of what occurred during production of Tales of Dread and Darkness. While our original intention was to provide the Secret Handshake team with a platform to share their experience, during production of this documentary, information has surfaced which has changed the direction of our aim in its entirety. My name is Peter Vanderkilk, and I believe there is an active entity identifying as the ADPA, which has the answers to these anomalous events, yet withholds the answers from the public. The question we now attempt to answer: what is the ADPA? In a world in which the concept of radio feels like charming nostalgia, audio production has come back full force in the form of podcasts. Enter Secret Handshake Productions 2024. Elliott Brotherhood, an ambitious, young writer-director-actor based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, begins his company as a platform to bring back joyful art.
I started Secret Handshake because I think a lot of artists, whether they're directors, writers, actors, are really frustrated with the idea of trying to get traction behind new work and struggling with that. So I wanted to take advantage of the audio medium, which is very accessible for a lot of people, and I wanted to give people the opportunity to produce their art and actually get the work they want to do done.
Secret Handshake launched its first production in January of 2024, an adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. They went on to do original productions such as The Soul That Is Bewildered, Hingus, Pingus, Fungus, and Dungus, and of course their recurring sketch comedy series, One Shots.
I think when we started doing one-shots was when I really knew that we had something special, or at least something that had the potential to be special. You know, in those early days of recording, we were setting up mics anywhere we could find, anywhere that would let us, set up, really. It was the Milwaukee Youth Arts Center sometimes on short notice, office spaces, sometimes people's apartments. But no matter where we were recording, it was clear that people really loved doing the work and they loved being there. The energy was infectious and people loved the work that we were doing, so they wanted more of it.
It was one of those things that brings you back to why you started all this in the first place. I think any actor will tell you there are days where you think, why did I go to theater school? I could own a house by now. But doing one-shots, it was like, yeah, this is why.
I think Milwaukee is such a vibrant art city, and what Secret Handshake is doing really breaks the mold. I love the energy of the theater community, don't get me wrong, but there are so many times when productions are pushed off and pushed off and pushed off because the money's not there, or the venue falls through, or whatever else. And I think Elliott is really working in an underrepresented media market of voiceover, and he was churning out projects on a weekly basis, so actors are just like chomping at the bit to be a part of this thing. And I think that's really exciting that you can be a part of stuff that you know is going to come to fruition.
Though not critically acclaimed right away, Secret Handshake soon gained notoriety within the tight-knit Milwaukee theater community.
I was amazed at how quickly people said yes. You reach out to some of these people you've seen on stage since you were a kid, people who are your role models, and you say, hey, can I slide you $20 to talk into a microphone for an hour or two? And, you can understand why somebody would reasonably say no, but every time it was instantly, yes, I'm 100% down for that.
Prominent actors began to appear on casting announcements. Things were looking good for Secret Handshake.
It was clear within the first few months that people wanted to be a part of this, and not just as actors, but they were also coming up to me and saying, can I write something for your company? Can I direct? Can I, get involved in some way? Which was really cool and kind of unexpected, and I was super grateful for that. So at that point, I started to think, there's some traction behind this, and I can start to plan a first full-blown season.
On June 3rd, 2024, Secret Handshake made a post on Instagram announcing their 2024-25 season. It listed a number of titles ranging from comedy shorts to long-form historical dramas. It included mention of a piece titled Tales of Dread and Darkness, with a simple graphic and a brief description simply stating, short, scary stories to be enjoyed throughout the spookiest month of the year. This description would lead one to believe it was nothing more than a fun gimmick for Halloween.
I remember Elliott had a meeting with some of us shortly before the season announcement, and he pitched us the idea of Tales of Dread and Darkness. It sounded like he wanted a series of short stories written by the people at Secret Handshake. Sounded like a cool idea at the time.
The original idea was that it would be simple, short stories that we wrote, anthology-style horror, no overarching plot, just classic audio drama in a classic narration style that people could listen to throughout October.
Nothing more was said about Tales of Dread and Darkness until September 24th, 2024, when Secret Handshake made a post about the series with a caption reading, "A series of strange, anomalous events have been caught on tape. We've come into possession of them." For those who simply scrolled past this post on Instagram, they likely thought nothing of it. But for those who paid attention to the initial season announcement, This indicated a significant departure from the original concept.
Yeah, I was a little confused when I saw that post. Elliott had talked about doing these kind of short horror stories, but he never mentioned this tape concept, and it didn't seem like Elliott wrote these things.
I remember Elliott sent this weird message to the Secret Handshake group chat that just said, "We're good on Dread and Darkness scripts." I figured at the time he had just written them all himself.
I was pretty excited when Elliott first told us that he was doing Tales of Dread and Darkness. I've always been into horror and spooky stuff, and I had been eager to do something in that genre. I had tried out a few different found footage horror concepts, but those had never come to fruition. So yeah, when Elliott pitched this to us, it seemed like a good opportunity to try again in a more simple way with the accessibility of audio, but yeah, I never thought it would go like it did.
After I made the initial season announcement, the Secret Handshake account got a DM from a really weird account. And the account had 0 posts, 0 followers, but they were following one person, and it was us. And the name on the account was just Winnie. All the message said was, "At 46 and 90, you'll find your show. Our door will be wide open to you." I obviously didn't know what that meant, so I responded asking for clarification, but I never heard back. And about 2 weeks later, a package arrived at my apartment with no return address, and inside it were 6 cassette tapes and a small handwritten note, which only said, "Who could go on living after listening to these?"
At this point in the production of our documentary, we do not have access to the original tapes Secret Handshake claims to have received. All we do have are 2 brief portions of audio digitized by Elliott prior to their confiscation.
Hello? Is this thing on? Fuck. I don't know if this is recording or not, but I don't know what the fuck is going on right now. I don't know. This is a memory. What is going on?
I honestly didn't really know what to make of it at first. I mean, some of the stuff on those tapes was pretty unsettling.
Conducting a cold listen, it's hard to know what to make of these tapes. The audio is cryptic, with much of it sounding like a series of noises, breaths, or somewhat unintelligible phrases. The only thing seemingly tying them together is the dark undertone of violence and tragedy. Could these tapes be a hoax? It's possible. Anyone with basic knowledge of audio software could manufacture such a recording with relative ease. However, one can't help but wonder if perhaps the tapes have a darker origin.
Criminals can be very sick people. I mean, you see it all the time. People stuck in cycles of deviant behavior, they feel the compulsive need to broadcast as a means of self-aggrandizement. But Elliott's description of those tapes doesn't really seem to fit that mold. It seems potentially more obscure than that.
There wasn't really a tangible story behind any of the tapes. They sounded like they were from a pretty long time ago, but it was honestly hard to tell. It was mostly just confusing audio of bad things happening, but there was one thing which stood out to me in all of them.
The sky is so purple.
The events were seemingly unrelated, but there was this weird computerized sounding voice which kept popping up in some of them, which at first made me think that this was some kind of prank. So when I messaged the Winnie account on Instagram and asked if they were the person who sent the tapes, I thought I could get that clarification, but again, they never responded.
Yeah, look, I mean, you need to understand that hindsight is 20/20 in these situations, but things aren't always clear at the time. Like, Elliott plays a clip of this creepy tape for me. I guess I thought it was a hoax from somebody else, probably, but I was creepy and I got the ideas rolling for the show scripts, so we kept rolling with them, we kept listening to them. We definitely did not think that we were infringing on anybody's privacy. We didn't think we were using anybody's intellectual property or personal property. We were just looking for inspiration for our Halloween show, and this provided that. That's all it was. Clearly we were wrong, and now here we are.
They definitely kept me up at night for a while, and they were on my mind a lot. You know, John and I are always kind of coming up with different ideas and, you know, making things. So we started drawing inspiration from the tapes and giving them a little more meat. And one of the tapes was this really creepy, consistent beeping with that computerized voice just saying, "Stick to the path." And I assumed it had something to do with cave divers, so I kind of came up with this mystery idea.
It's gone.
It was probably an animal. It must have gotten spooked off.
Didn't sound like an animal.
Scott, don't freak yourself out. We have a job to do.
This is crazy.
Scott.
Hello? That must be him. Hello?
It really didn't seem like anything weird was going on. Elliott sent me a fully written script, and it just seemed like a fun horror idea.
I mean, from my perspective, it was just like everything else with Secret Handshake. He basically texted and was like, "Hey, I have this script. Do you want to record some voiceover?" There really isn't any dark backstory to it.
VO is great because you can have a lead role without doing much work. Elliott or John, one of the two of them, sent me a script about this guy who was hearing weird things on his sleep cycle app. I hopped up on a Zoom call with the two of them and recorded the whole thing in like an hour. I didn't know what I was hearing at first, but when I walked out into my hallway this morning, my dog was dead. Just lying there in the hallway. Dead. There was no suggestion of anything weirder or darker.
I kept listening to the tapes to try and make sense of them, I guess, to draw any conclusions that I could. I mean, honestly, it became a little bit of an obsession for me.
The tapes were definitely weird, no question. I mean, if you're a rabbit hole kind of person, these are crack cocaine. Drop that in a Reddit thread, and I mean, people will go crazy with it.
We went into production for our recreations, and we were all having fun with it at first.
I had a blast doing it. Elliott and I have been friends for a long time, so I'm always down to help him. There was no reason to think there was anything weird going on.
And I mean, the ideas weren't like that scary either. I mean, they were decent and they worked, but the episode I did was just like this podcast that got interrupted by some interference, and then some spooky shit happened. It wasn't like it raised any red flags or anything.
So, the 80s, a handful of songs. Right, yeah. I can name you a handful of songs from the early 2000s that lots of people still care about, but... We must die to make way for them. If you look at the music...
We had so much fun actually recording the episodes that I guess by that point I had kind of forgotten about the original tapes. But then stuff started happening.
On October 12th, 2024, Secret Handshake Productions made an announcement on Instagram, including a screenshot of their previous post from September 24th, with the words, "Please disregard this post." 2 days later, on October 14th, 2024, Secret Handshake made a post including headshots of the actors involved with the caption reading simply, "Leave our actors alone." As the heavily edited and highlighted nature of the post suggests, this was intended to be nothing more than a fun social media marketing scheme. Little did Elliott know how prescient these Instagram posts would be.
On October 11th, 2024, I received an envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside the envelope was a really formal letter, kind of like a cease and desist, I guess, stating,
Secret Handshake Productions. It has come to our attention that a series of classified tapes have been leaked and that you have come into possession of them. These tapes feature highly sensitive material that are not fit for your ears. Leave the tapes outside your building, and we will make sure they are properly disposed of. If you fail to comply, your social media activity will not seem so funny anymore.
That was it. No name, no signature or anything. But the letterhead had this acronym, ADPA, and the words, protecting you from what you shouldn't see.
ADPA. What do these letters mean? And what does it mean to protect us from what we shouldn't see? It appears to be some kind of organization, but not one that has any public record.
I looked up this ADPA organization to see what they were all about, but there's literally nothing. No Google results, no business records, nothing.
An organization with absolutely no public record allegedly leaking 6 tapes with classified data depicting certain tragic events. Cave divers being attacked, a man dying on the radio, a mysterious child being discovered and studied. What does all this mean?
Elliott didn't really talk much about what happened. I remember I coincidentally called him the night he got the redaction notice or whatever to talk about some production stuff, so unrelated, but he seemed really shaken up. Asked him what was going on, and he was kind of elusive. I know he sent the tapes back, and it seemed like he took care of everything, but things really kept getting worse and really weird for him. He had some bad experiences that, I don't know if I should say that. I know he was pretty affected by it. I guess if he chooses to share that, that's up to him, but I don't really think it's my place to talk about his stuff.
I thought about calling the police, but I was honestly kind of scared that would only make things worse. I wanted to buy myself some time, so I actually ran to a vintage print shop that was able to transfer tapes to digital audio files. And I was having them save digital files of the original audio so that I could save it as proof. But I had an anxiety attack while they were processing the data, and I was so scared of what the repercussions would be. So I ended up only getting 2 audio bites that were like 10 seconds each. I kept those, but put the tapes outside my building, like they said, and they were gone by morning. And I was hoping it was over, but the next night, stuff started getting really weird. This is so fucked up, sorry.
On October 13th, 2024, Elliott woke up to the following message.
I mean, they literally sent me a picture of me in my fucking bed. And I had been open to the idea that this was some kind of prank or hoax, but at this point, whatever it was had gone way too far. And it was clear that somebody knew something and wasn't telling me. And that they knew who I was and where I was. And I went back to that little audio bite I had saved from the original tape and was scouring it for information. And listening again, I noticed something that I didn't the first time.
ADPA.